know, we can have three-dimensional things now on computer games. And that's what we're doing. Taking vibrational information and decoding it into a holographic world that appears to be out there but isn't. So in a decoded state, this is what the world looks like. In an undecoded state, they are energetic vibrational fields. This reality has a number of levels, the coded and decoded levels. So we're living in a virtual reality game, basically, of great sophistication. And when we know that, we can enjoy it. When we don't know that, we can become enslaved by it, and we have been. And scientists, it's funny you see, because these scientists, left-brainers, there are now some real cutting-edge mainstream scientists in some parts of the world who've opened up the right brain, and they're very impressive people. But, and they're starting to get this now. But the left-brainers, I mean, it's like, you know in the pantomimes, where someone's standing on the stage and someone, like a monster or something, comes behind them, and the audience is going, "He's behind you!" And they turn round, and the other person turns round with them, and they're going, "There's nobody there! He's behind." It's like that with science, because they're trying to work out these realities, but of course, as they're trying to work it out, their brain is decoding it into a holographic, apparently solid world. But they can't get at it, because everything they touch, everything they look at, boom, it's hologram, boom, it's hologram, it's solid, it's real. So this is why scientists have to open their consciousness if they're going to get to the deep levels that we're talking about today. The other great characteristic of a hologram is that every part of the hologram contains a smaller version of the whole. Extraordinary characteristic. So if you cut a holographic print, those wavy frequency fields, the interference pattern, into 4, and you fire a laser at the 4 pieces, you don't get a quarter-size part of the whole picture, you get a quarter-size version of the whole picture. Everything is a smaller version of the whole. And that is why this works, and what it's based on, if people started to realize it. Things like reflexology and acupuncture and these other alternative forms of healing, they can find parts of the body, this is reflexology, acupuncture is the same, that reflect in different parts of the body, the bigger parts of the body, so they can treat the heart from a point on the foot or the hand. Different parts of the ear, you can treat different parts of the body from a point on the ear. Of course you can. It has to be like that, because the body is a hologram, and so the ear is a smaller version of the whole in the way it works. We have this thing, this line that people say, "Oh, everything's as above, so below." Yes, because it's a hologram. So, this is why the human energy field is mirrored by the Earth's energy field, because it's a hologram, and every part of the whole, at all the different levels, is a smaller version of the whole. What we're living in is a holographic internet, as I call it. If you look at what we call the internet, which we use on our computers, the only place the internet exists in the form that we perceive the internet, websites and graphics and colors and texts, is on the computer screen. It's the only place it exists in that form. Everywhere else, it's electrical circuits, mathematics, on-off electrical signals, all the rest of it. Same with television. The only place that television exists as we perceive it is on the screen. Everywhere else, it's frequency fields, mathematics, and electrical systems. And it's the same with us. Jean Fourier, a Frenchman, he developed something called the Fourier transform, which allowed pictures to be turned into frequency fields, broadcast, and then decoded into pictures. That's basically what our brain is doing on a vastly more sophisticated level. So what is the matrix, this holographic internet we live in or think we live in, we are part of its projection. It is energetic information. That's what it is. And we decode that information, and what we decode and how we decode it decides our experienced reality. Decides what we experience. We are crystals, basically. And so often, of course, in receiver transmitting, you see the use of crystals. The membrane of every cell, and we have trillions of them, is a crystalline substance. DNA is a crystalline substance. This is the membrane of a cell. And electrical signals make these gates open and close, letting in what's good for the cell, keeping out what's bad for the cell, etc., etc. Which is why when we get involved in disruptive electrical and electromagnetic situations, these can open and close at the wrong times and lead to ill health. But we are crystals, and we are transmitter-receivers of information. And this was an article on DNA that I read. From the characteristic form of this giant molecule, a wound double helix, the DNA represents an ideal electromagnetic antennae. Yes, of course it does. On one hand, it is elongated and thus a blade which can take up very well electrical pulses. On the other hand, seen from above, it has the form of a ring and thus is a very magnetical antennae. Don Juan, I think his name was, the shaman source of the Carlos Castaneda books, is quoted as saying this: "We are perceivers, we are awareness, we are not objects, we have no solidity, we are boundless, we, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime." And we don't do that because we're not meant to. Society is structured to keep us there. And these influences, programming information, sense of belief, the poisons we get in food and drink, religions that mess with our minds and close down our awareness, education and all this other stuff, medical drugs, are affecting the decoding of this information, what we decode, how we decode it, and what range we decode. And at the level of the real manipulators, that's coldly, calculatedly done to put us in a vibrational prison we call a world. Bewildered world, going through it. What the hell is it all about? I don't understand. This is symbolic of the world we live in. For a body, computers. And we tap into this World Wide Web, you might call the cosmic internet, the holographic internet. And it's not, this is symbolic, the wires between them, because it ain't like that. It's like this. This Brixton Academy has wireless internet. It's here, everywhere, around us. We can't see it, it's not affecting our perception at all. But if I tune this computer to that Wi-Fi wireless internet, on that screen will suddenly appear that internet, that reality. And what we're living in, where are we, is a holographic internet, and that information exists everywhere around us, and we're decoding it unknowingly, though not now, increasingly, into this reality we think is the world. And so you had that scene in the Matrix movie, the first one, where Morpheus says, the Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell, taste, or touch. A prison for your mind. And the Matrix is everywhere because it is like a wireless internet which we're decoding. and we can decode vast areas of this internet. Or, as they do in China, that internet can be firewalled off, so we only access that which suits those in control. And that's basically what's happened to us, not least through genetic manipulation. So what is reality? It's the frequency range that we are decoding, and it's how we are decoding it. So when you've got miracles, there are no miracles. No such thing. There's only understanding reality more than you are when you perceive them as miracles. How can it be that you can walk through fire in a certain state of consciousness and not get burned, and you can walk through fire in another state of consciousness and be in the ambulance in 10 minutes? It's simply your connection, your interaction with reality is different. If you believe, and it's programmed into the software, that if you put your hand in fire it will burn, it will burn. But if you can go to another level of consciousness that's beyond that, then you can walk through fire and not get burned, as many people do. That's not a miracle. It's just decoding reality in a different way. And we have the potential to decode a sodding paradise, which is why this has been kept from us. In the Matrix movie, there is no spoon. It is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself, exactly. I saw this. Where there is love, there is pain. Bollocks. Bollocks. Only if you believe there is. We are looking at a world of people imprisoned by their own perception of reality. There they are. There they could be. As William Blake said, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man and woman as it is, infinite. I think, therefore I am, said Descartes. I compute, therefore I am, on a body consciousness level. I am, therefore I am, in terms of infinite consciousness. That's who we are. What's your name? Everything you can ever think of. And just go through this before. I've kept to time well, purely by bloody accident, mine. On one level, as I said earlier, this is a mathematical construct. This is one reason why things like numerology and numerological sequences are found all the time in secret society lore and stuff. And if you look at the codes of DNA, they've got a very digital mathematical feel about them. Same with DNA when you look at it. We are digital on one level. The Earth grid, as above, so below. The Earth is an energetic construct in the same way that we are, and it has a structure of energy lines called ley lines, meridian lines, whatever. And these are very geometrical in the way that they are laid out. Again, mathematics, geometry. And algebra, I like it, yeah. The Earth grid equals x, y squared. And xy squared, where'd that come from? I don't know. Anyway, so here's the grid, and the lines are geometrical. And what a lot of people have now, who've researched ancient structures and temples and standing stones and what have you, they found that they are amazingly, stands back in amazement, in geometrical relationship to each other all over the world. How did they do that? Miraculous? No. If you have that ancient knowledge, and I'll come to that in the second half, or the second section, you know where these vortexes are. If you put a temple or a construction on that vortex, it is going to be in relationship geometrically to these other ones, because you're putting it on a geometrically formed grid. And just like we have the chakra system of vortexes, so does the Earth. And like I say, things like Stonehenge and these great constructions of the ancient world were invariably put on these vortex points, which is where the geometrical relationship comes from. Also, because of this ancient knowledge I'll talk about when we've had a break, you find that these great ancient constructions and temples and amazing creations are using classic geometrical and mathematical codes like pi and golden mean, extraordinary. Also, what comes up a lot is the Fibonacci sequence of numbers, which was attributed in terms of discovery, although it seems it was known long before, to this guy, Leonardo Pisano Fibonacci. I'm not sure, I think he was Italian, I'm not sure. And the Fibonacci sequence is you add the two numbers together to get the next one. And this sequence you find throughout nature and throughout the formation and the relationships of parts of the human body and the human face. You find this Fibonacci sequence because that's the mathematical construct level of reality manifesting itself. The same with how flowers grow and how flowers are formed. This Fibonacci sequence of numbers and mathematics comes up again and again and again. Same with these other golden mean and pi stuff as well. So this guy, Stephen Marquardt, an American doctor who studied the human face and the human body from, I think it was a point of view of cosmetic surgery, started to see this obvious correlation between these mathematical codes and sequences and the human body. And he said this: all life is biology, all biology is physiology, all physiology is chemistry, all chemistry is physics, and all physics is math, or maths as we say here. And he might have added, and all maths is energy, because that's the next level of it. We live in a almost a mechanical construct on one level as it plays out, and through things like money and other things the manipulators have introduced and controlled, they're controlling the way or influencing the way this construct operates and turning us into robots and parts of the machine when we are infinite consciousness. It's the same with astrology. When we're born at a certain time, we pick up energetic vibrational fields that are around at that time that are affected by the relationship of the planets of that time, the sun at that time. And they can influence us because this affects our body consciousness auric field, and as we go through the sequences through our lives, as the planets move, we are going to be affected by them in a different way to someone born at another time in the cycle who will carry a different vibrational field and therefore interact with the planets in a different way. And these forces, these same forces, are what hold planets in the positions they're in. And when those forces change or move, so do the planets. So, as we finish this first section, what is reality? Whatever we believe it is, and more than that, given what we're going to talk about in the second section, whatever we are told to believe it is. This is the foundation of the conspiracy. And I've started with this because from that, as we move through the day, the way society is structured and the way that the whole system that we experience every day works starts to make dramatically more sense once we realize what we're dealing with, and also have the knowledge that those in the shadows, not the bushes and people like that, the ones with the real power, they understand all this, and they've structured society with that knowledge to control us through this knowledge. So it's not, the world is not controlled by men in dark suits sitting around a table. It's massively influenced by them because they're playing out this conspiracy. They're not the origins of it. This is where a lot of conspiracy researchers go so far and stop. They think this is it. It's the Bilderberg Group. It's the Council on Foreign Relations. It's the Freemasons. No, no. This is one level of it being played out. Behind that are the shadow people, the human shadow people, who operate behind the scenes, who control those people who are apparently in power and appear on the news and sign the legislation, but the real power's here. And they, in turn, are controlled by the other dimensional shadow people, which I'll get to big time in the second section. Thanks.